Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dribble and Drive. Today it's just me. Anthony's sick, but it's gonna be a big NBA episode just because Anthony's not here. Normally that's when we talk our college hoops. So yeah, again, a lot of NBA today. So I'm gonna start today by saying you want to know why the NBA needs to change the amount of games from 82 to like 60 or 65 because I really believe that. Well, the 76ers and Pelicans are playing tonight, and here are their starting lineups. The Sixers are starting Jeff Doughton, Jared Butler, Jay Edwards, Ricky Council, and Gershon Yabusele. The Pelicans, Jose Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins, Robinson Earl, Kelly Olynyk, and Missy, who's day to day. So he may not even play. So this is horrible for the NBA. A lot of people don't think there's really a problem. Obviously, billionaires' pockets aren't going to hurt, so it's not going to be changed down to, less than 82 games, most likely. But right now, it's at 82, and it should be at 60 or 65. I firmly believe that. For that reason, we see guys like Embiid, guys like Zion, guys like Porzingis and Kawhi, so many others. They can't play a full regular season. It's too tough on their bodies. Even if they do play, teams don't care about the regular season. 1 out of 82 games does not matter. You can't expect fans to care about a product that players don't care about. Another thing I wanted to talk about was the Timberwolves. So, since the All-Star break, they're 10-6. That's the fifth best record in the NBA. They have the fifth best net rating in the NBA. In their last 16 games with Randall playing, they're 14-2. He did miss all of February, though, so if you only count his games in March, where he did play 11 games, they're still 9-2. So they've been very, very good recently with Julius Randle. I love the depth, the size, and the defense the Timberwolves have. I think they match up better with Oklahoma City than anyone else in the entire league because of those three things. You have lengthy, versatile perimeter defenders in Ant, Jaden, DiVincenzo, Alexander Walker, Clark. Then, of course, you have four-time Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert down low. But if you need him off the floor because he does have weaknesses, Naz Reid steps in, and you also have Randall's size. The only two defenders I don't love are Conley and Randall, but Conley's 42% from three, and the Wolves have been elite with Randall on the court for the entire second half of the season. Plus, Conley brings vet experience. Randall at least brings size. And I literally named 7 other dudes who I absolutely love on defense. Most guys barely have a 7-man rotation, the Nuggets being one of those teams. So Minnesota's the biggest team in the league, a top 5 deepest team in the league, a top 5 defensive team in the league. They have a superstar scorer in Ant, and they went to the conference finals last year. And the only team that could beat them in the West literally blew up their entire franchise. So the Timberwolves are pretty good, even though they're the 8th seed. The only concern I have about this team being a championship contender is Julius Randle. Can he be that second scoring option behind Ant without ball stopping, without ruining the offense? Can he shoot well enough from three to space the floor and actually knock down threes in the playoffs? We'll see. The only guys I worry about shooting are Randall, Gobert, and McDaniels. Gobert can't shoot, but obviously you have 3 bigs, so you can rotate as needed, and you don't always need shooting on the floor when you play such good defense. Randall is 33% from 3, although 37% in his last 10. McDaniels is 34% from 3, although 45% from 3 in his last 10. Conley is 42%, Ant is 40%, DiVincenzo, Alexander Walker, Reed, they're all 39%. Clark is 45%. I love this 9-man rotation and the potential, versatility, and defensive upside. You get the best bench in the league. You got a lot. You got a lot to look forward to in the playoffs if you're a Timberwolves fan. I think they're really good. I think they can, like I said, I think they match up with Oklahoma City better than anybody else in the league. It's something, or anybody else in the West, I'll say. It's something. The Warriors as well. Since the All-Star break, they're 13-3. That's the second best record in the NBA and the second best net rating in the league, both only behind Oklahoma City, the best team in the league. Golden State has the number 8 offense, the number 1 defense since the break, and since the Butler trade, they're 16-4, 16-3 when Butler plays, and 15-2 when Curry and Butler both play. Before the trade, they were 10th in the West, 25-26. Now they're the 6th team in the West at 41-30. They basically went from a top 10 defensive team who didn't have enough help next to Steph to an at least top 5 defensive team with a second option in Jimmy Butler and a ton of depth. Steph has been playing way better too. He's had a 50-point game, a couple of 40s, and people thought he was too old, started taking him out of their top 5s. Enough with that. The only concerns I have with this team is their size and how they match up with Oklahoma City. And do they have enough shooting around Steph? I like what I've seen from Moody. He's 38% this year. But can Pods, Kuminga, Hield, Jimmy, even Quentin Post and Gary Payton, can they knock down threes to help Steph out? Pods is 34% from three, although 50 in his last 10. Hield is 37%, but he's either the greatest shooter ever, literally, or he plays himself off the court. It's interesting. We've known this for years, too. It's nothing different. I mean, he's either going to be the best shooter you've ever seen or play himself off the court, like I said. Kuminga, he's 32% from three this season, 14% in his last 10. You're really banking on what he can give you as an athlete, as a versatile, lengthy athlete who can get downhill and play some defense. Butler, he's under 30%. Can he knock it down when it matters? Gary Payton, 33%, but 55 in his last 10. That's something. And Quentin Post, he's 44% from three. But how much is he going to be on the court, you know? But overall with the Warriors, just like the Timberwolves, I mean, I love the defense. I love the defense. I love the depth. I love the potential. I love Steph and when you get from Jimmy and what you get from Jimmy and Draymond. Championship experience. I love the potential. But will the young guys step up and knock down their shots? That's the key for Golden State. Another team I want to talk about, the Chicago Bulls versus the Lakers the other night, which they won. Matas Buzelis, 31 points, 12 for 18 from the field, 5 for 10 from three. Josh Giddey, 15 points, 10 rebounds, 17 assists, 8 steals. 5 for 11 from the field, 1 for 2 from three. On the season, he's 14, 8 and 7, 40%, 47% from the field, 38% from three. Kobe White, 36 points, 12 for 17 from the field, 6 for 9 from three. Here are his recent point totals in order: 36, 35, 24, 26, 23, 31, 29, 21, 44, 25. So these three have been absolutely phenomenal. Buzelis, he's a first-round pick. You love what you're getting from him. 31 on 12 for 18, 5 for 10 from three against the Lakers. You saw that move he made against Luka, getting to the basket baseline. That dude has potential. And you have Josh Giddey, 15 points, 10 rebounds, 17 assists, and 8 steals. 5 for 11 from the field, 1 for 2 from three. I'm just repeating myself, but man, how can you not repeat yourself when he's putting those numbers up? This is a guy who's just given away by the Thunder. And then Kobe White, 36 points. He's been scoring, man. 20 points per game, efficiently. The Bulls are winning basketball games. They're probably going to finish with that. You know, they're probably going to make the playoffs. The Heat don't want to. And then you look at the other teams in that race. I mean, there's a clear top 6 in the East, which we'll get to. Then you have the Hawks, the Magic, the Bulls, and the Heat. The Heat don't want to win. They just went on a 10-game skid, just picked up their first win, but they're trying to lose these games. They were up at half, like by 20 to a team, and then they just blew the lead on purpose. I mean, they're trying to lose games. But the Bulls, 7-3 in their last 10, those three guys are popping off. This is a team that really wants to win. And the Magic, I mean, they have Paolo and Franz and a really good defense, so it's going to be tough to beat them. And then the Hawks don't have their own pick. But still, the Bulls, I mean, they're probably playing the best basketball out of all those teams, and they probably want to win the most out of all those teams. So watch out for the Bulls to make the play-in, probably not make some noise. I mean, but they're a team that wants to win. They're a team with young talent. Looking at the rest of their roster, that's where it gets interesting because you have Vucevic, who you don't want to hold on to for too long because he's old. You have Lonzo Ball, who you're probably going to give up on soon, but he's another one of those guys like Giddey. Scores, rebounds, plays defense, play makes. But, the shooting's there, but it's streaky sometimes, and they can't stay on the floor. And Lonzo's just even worse. So at this point, you like Giddey. Lonzo's probably gone. You love Kobe. You love Buzelis. Vucevic, can you flip him? And then there's a bunch of not very good guys off the bench. Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, Dalen Terry, Patrick Williams, whatever. That's where, you're not excited about this team. But those three, Giddey, White, and Buzelis, maybe you can flip one of them. Maybe you build around one or two of them. It's interesting. I think you keep Buzelis, move off. I don't know. Maybe you could start Giddey at the point, White at the 2, Buzelis, and then build the rest of your team. But you're not picking high. So it's weird. It's a weird situation. Do you want to win? Do you want to not? They look like they want to win. Bulls fans, I'm sure they're happy to see the emergence of these three guys, but they also don't want to win. They want to pick. They want some good picks. And last time they had like a top 6 pick, they end up with Patrick Williams. So, yeah, stuck in no man's land, but balling right now. Let's see. Yeah, that other top six in the East. So you have the Cavs and the Celtics, who I think are the only teams that are really seriously going to come out of this conference. And then you have the Knicks. Here's my thing with the Knicks. They don't play defense very well, despite having Bridges, Anunoby, and Hart in the starting lineup. But it really comes down to, I mean, Brunson's your small guard. I like him, but I definitely don't believe in Cat as a top two scoring option. Or else I think Minnesota would be in the finals last year. And they wouldn't have moved on from him, despite the paying thing. They would have rather moved on from Gobert. I mean, if Cat was really that good, right? Cat is also he's a vulnerable target on defense. The Celtics have shown us this. He's unreliable when brought out to the perimeter. Guys like Bridges and OG are getting paid so much, and they gave up so much for him. You'd think they'd be these two-way all-stars, but are they really? No. You're not. The Knicks aren't serious, but they do have a lot of potential. They can pop off, but they're not coming out of the East. The Pacers, they're basically the same team as last year, but with a two-way young scorer and Mathurin off the bench. I think that undeniably makes them better. And they can space the floor. Siakam and Turner's really good down low. Neesmith and Nemhard are your 3-and-D role guys. Halliburton. The thing is, Halliburton's your one. I don't think Halliburton's a... Maybe you could say Siakam's your one. I don't know. I think you need... Before this team really gets serious, there needs to be a move made. Although I do really like Ben Mathurin. I just don't think he's, a number one scoring option, even if he thinks he is himself. I think what this team would look like once they're serious is you're going to have to move on as much as you don't want to, and as much as this is a solid team. You don't want to move on from Turner. You don't want to move on from Siakam. But I think you have to. I think you need to get a second star, and it gets really complicated. You want to keep Halliburton, probably want to keep Mathurin, but I don't know. You gotta get rid of something. You gotta make a move if you really want to take that step. Halliburton, I think, is part of it. But yeah, I think Halliburton's a 2. A really good playmaker and a second scoring option with Siakam. So, I mean, if this team flipped, I don't know. This team's a little bit away. If this team got, a Kevin Durant, that now we're talking. If this team got, just a better player than Tyrese Halliburton. Because I don't think Tyrese is a Cade. I think Tyrese is a Trae Young, a Jalen Brunson, a 2. So, yeah. The Bucks, they have Dame, they have Giannis. They're a top 3 shooting team in the league. They have defensive potential. But I don't think Doc Rivers is the guy to figure it out. And I don't see what I used to see from Damian Lillard. The stats are there, but there's a lot of guys I'd rather have at this point. When I watch Damian Lillard, he looks old. He doesn't look as good as he used to. And I'm the biggest Damian Lillard fan ever. I mean, 2020 Damian Lillard was something to watch. I think he's a 1 or a 2 on a championship team, but not anymore. Give me Halliburton. Give me Brunson. Give me Trae Young. Giannis is a top 3 player in the world at least. We know how good he is. Let's not forget that. 60 to close out the finals. Defensive Player of the Year. 2-time MVP. NBA Finals MVP. He's probably the second best player in basketball when healthy. I'm not completely out on this team because of Giannis and the shooting he has around him. But like I said, Dame's not there. Doc Rivers isn't the guy I want to buy into. I'm not buying on this team. And then the Pistons. They're going to be amazing with Cade, with Ivy, Asar's that 2-way wing, Duran down low next year. And if they bring back Tobias Harris, THJ, Beasley, the shooting, the veterans that have helped them win games, they're going to be good. Plus guys like Ron Holland, the first-round pick, only getting better as a part of their future. Ivy, he hasn't even been playing, but he is really good. 17 points per game, 40% from 3, which was the weakness with him. This is a team I'm not worried about this year as a Celtics fan, but maybe they could beat the Knicks. Maybe they could beat some other teams, but they're not legit contenders yet for the finals. Cade is there, though. Let's pull up his stats. I mean, this dude's phenomenal. This guy is a top 10 player in the NBA borderline already in his 3rd season. He had 35 the other night. He had a game winner the other night. 38, 37. Looking at his scoring totals, but 26 points per game, 46% from the field, 35% from 3. But 26 points per game, 9 assists, 6 rebounds. He's a guy who can lead your team to a championship in a few years. And I really like what they have brewing around him because, Ivy, as I mentioned, Duran, Asar Thompson. I think that's your core four, and Ron Holland, core five, and they're all young. If they can keep the shooting and get, I don't know, they can keep the shooting and the defense all they want, but until Jalen Duren gets a little bit better, Cade gets a little bit better, which is bound to happen, and then the big thing is Asar Thompson making that jump and Jaden Ivey really getting adjusted into the lineup and being that second scoring option, whether it's off the bench, whether it's at the two. Um, so yeah, I think this team goes as far. Cade and Jalen Duren are gonna grow. They're gonna have guys around them, as long as they don't lose Harris and Beasley and Hardaway, or at least replace them. But yeah, I mean, like I said, Cade and Duren are gonna progress, but how good are Ivy and Desar Thompson gonna get? I think that's in Ron Holland. I think that's where this Pistons team goes. They're a fun team this year. They're not a contender, but next year, then the year after that, a lot of these guys are still going to be kind of cheap and young. I really like the future of this Detroit Pistons team. But like I said, Ivy and Asar are really the X factors. And I'm talking in a future sense, not this year. Another team we need to talk about is the Clippers. They've been phenomenal, 8-2 in their last 10. Kawhi is amazing when he's healthy. We know that. Harden has been great. Powell has been really good. Bogdanovich is another offensive option. And you have role players like Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr., Coffee. They can win some games. Zubac is a great center, a walking 10 and 10 with defense. He does have the weakness of not being able to stretch the floor, which does limit your offense in 2025 especially. But I do like Zubac. But I'm not buying it. Kawhi, what are the chances he plays a full series if he can even make it there? Let's just be real. Harden, Powell, Bogdanovich, as I mentioned, great offensive guys, but what about the defense? I know they're a top 5 defense in defensive rating, but, I just don't buy it. The Lakers have been really good defensively, but that's still their weakness. If they get Kawhi off of a guy, who's going to make a stop? Because if you get Zubac on him, he's not going to guard along the perimeter. Guys are going to love attacking Harden, Powell, and Bogdanovich. Kawhi is really the only guy. So that's what I worry about. And of course, Zubac, with all the great things he does, he can't shoot. That limits your offense. I mean, I'm not buying this Clippers team. But they have been good. They're fun. Maybe they could win a series. That's it, though. The Nuggets. This is a team that people don't know what to do. Is this team going to make the finals? Is this team going to go out in the first round? I worry about them. I worry about Westbrook. I think they're using him better than LA was. The Clippers, they're giving him the ball. They're giving Westbrook the ball, which he needs. The Clippers were taking it out of his hands, and it was a horrible fit. He's not an off-ball player, but I still worry. I don't trust him as a shooter. He's going to get left open, and he's mistake-prone as well. He'll turn the ball over in crucial situations, and he's your sixth man? I mean, the depth isn't good. Despite a really good starting 5, I love Jokic, Murray, Porter, Gordon. They're all 40% from 3 this year. Christian Brown is a decent 5 too, but Westbrook is the 6th. Peyton Watson is the 7th. I don't know, man. I'm not buying it. When they won the championship, it was those 4 with Bruce Brown, Christian Brown, and KCP as your 5, 6, 7, and then you had guys to be your 8, 9. But now these guys are your 5, 6, 7s, and I don't buy it. Jokic is amazing too, but he's tired and beaten up. This isn't the year for them. The defense too isn't that great. You don't have a great defense to fall back on. The depth isn't there. This isn't their year. Another team we need to talk about is the Houston Rockets. They're too young. They're the second best team in the West. You'll get the stats. Post All-Star, they have the 5th best record in the league. 12-5. They have, a top 8 net rating. They're a really good team. They're the 2nd seed in the West, but they're 9-1 in their last 10. So yeah, the Rockets, they're 2nd in the West, 9-1 in their last 10. They've been playing very good, but they're too young. You never know what you're going to get from Jalen Green. I don't want that guy as my number 1 scorer. Amen Thompson's jumper isn't here yet. Jabari Smith hasn't quite emerged yet, despite being decent and me actually liking him long term as a 3-and-D, really good defender, really good shooter who can create his own shot a little bit. There's a reason he was picked 3. He just isn't there yet. Dylan Brooks even, he's a good role player, but you just never know what you're going to get. They're not legit contenders this year, but it's not a knock on them. They are just too young, and it's not their time yet. They're really interesting, though. They're really interesting. You look at them from a long-term perspective. FVV, Jalen Green, Amen Thompson, Brooks Sengun's their starting five with Eason, Jabari Smith, Adams off the bench, and Shepard doesn't play. I think when you look at the Rockets, you need to look at them long term only. They're not winning. I think the Timberwolves could beat them in as much as in as low as 5 games this year. Because Van Vliet, I mean, he's a guy. Van Vliet's a guy you brought in. You pay him a lot of money over 3 years because that 3 year window is not your championship window. That's the year, where you bring in Ime Udoka, you build a winning culture, you figure out who's your guy, who's not your guy. Maybe Van Vliet stays on a cheaper contract. But regardless, he's not, your starting point guard making $35 million a year. No. Jalen Green, maybe he emerges, but I don't trust him as the number one scorer right now. And then Thompson, I think this team is built around, it's really predicated around Sengun at the 5, and then Jabari at the 4, and Shepard, and maybe Green. But yeah, it's Alperen Sengun, it's Jabari Smith Jr., it's Amen Thompson, and then it's one of Green or Shepard, probably Shepard because he's younger and you're not going to have to pay him as quick. And I don't love Green. I don't. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's those three, Amen, Smith, and Sengun, and then maybe you flip Green for some value. You get rid of Van Vliet eventually, free up some cap space. And those three are going to get you really far because Amen Thompson's a really good player, but, and then you have the third overall pick in Shepard, so it's so interesting. But they're not right now. Yeah. Another guy I wanted to throw out there, Keontae George. Last year he was 13 points per game, 39% from the field, 25. So last year 13 points, 39% from the field. This year 17 points, 39% from the field. That's weird. Really low efficiency. Obviously he's on the Jazz, so you can't worry about him too much. But what else do we got here? A question I wanted to ask is Kevin Durant's a really interesting guy right now because he's not the problem in Phoenix, but he is part of the problem. You watch them play defense. Durant and Booker aren't making it better. They're one of the worst defenses in the league, despite being one of the best offenses in the league, and it hasn't balanced out. They're not a good team. KD's probably gone after this year. Booker might be gone after this year. And you watch the offense, and it's like, oh wow, KD and Booker aren't the problem. They're balling. Especially KD, the dude's phenomenal. His efficiency, his scoring, his offense as a whole, he's great. But then the defense, man, he's not helping it. Tyus Jones starting, that's horrible defensively. Nick Richards, Plumlee, what they've got going defensively at the 5 is horrible. Booker, KD, and Bale's a horrible. Bale, man. Oh, these Suns. I don't even want to talk about these Suns. It's brutal. Yeah. Other than that, let me look at college basketball really quick. We've got, Arizona beat Oregon, Michigan State beat New Mexico, Ole Miss upset Iowa State, Maryland beat Colorado State. Maryland's my championship pick, or I at least have them in the final 2. But yeah, Kentucky beat Illinois. Alabama beat St. Mary's. Duke beat Baylor. Florida took care of UConn. That was a crazy game. Dan Hurley had a lot to say about that. Hopes Baylor doesn't get screwed like that, but they did. I mean, they didn't get screwed, but you get the point. I mean, Baylor lost. For the Sweet 16, you got Ole Miss, Michigan State. That could go either way. It really could. Kentucky, Tennessee, that could go either way. I'm going to take Tennessee. Kentucky's banged up. But 3 versus 2 seed in the SEC. Michigan, Auburn. Michigan has Michigan has the size. Michigan does have the size. Auburn's obviously the better team. Michigan's got another guard too, Trey Donaldson. He can take off. Don't count out Michigan there. Purdue, I'm taking Houston, but you can't count out Purdue. People want to just keep counting out Purdue. It's not working. But yeah, overall, yeah. The NBA is really, really interesting. If I had to rank the West right now, I'd go Thunder number 1. I'd go Timberwolves number two because of their depth, their defense, their size, their potential, the way they match up against Oklahoma City and everybody else. And then 3, 4, 5 in whatever order, 3 or 4 is going to be the Lakers and Warriors. I worry about both of those teams' size. And I worry about what the Warriors, what can they get next to Curry, the shooting. I worry about the Lakers, Hayes and the defense, and that's just what I worry about. Can they get stops down the stretch against the Thunder and teams like that? I think the Thunder have size and the perimeter matchups better. But the Lakers do have LeBron, Luka, and a ton of experience in shooting and offense. Yeah. The Thunder are the best team in the West, and then the Timberwolves, even though they're the 7th seed, I think they're the second best team. The Warriors and Lakers 3rd and 4th, the Nuggets 5th, the Grizzlies and Rockets and Clippers 6th, 7th, and 8th. Just because I think the Rockets are too young, I'm not buying the Clippers. The Grizzlies, they haven't put together a staple run late in the season. Maybe with John JJJ healthy and you get a run. I'm not putting my money on that though. Yeah, I think the top 4 teams are and then the Nuggets. I mean, they're the 5th one, but I talked about it. I just think the Thunder are the clear-cut best team, with the Wolves, not playing the best, but having the potential to be better than them. Then the Warriors and the Lakers, I'm not counting those teams out. And then in the East, I didn't talk a lot about the Celtics and Cavs. The Cavs, I don't know who to pick there. The Celtics, when they're fully healthy, I think they're dominant. I think they're still the best team. They're 9-1 in their last 10. The Cavs are 6-4 in their last 10. Obviously, they've been resting guys, and not taking it as seriously because they probably have that 1 seed locked up. Celtics 5 games back, but I think they're the only 2 teams in that Eastern Conference who can come out. That defensive backcourt of Garland and Mitchell really worries me. Obviously, you can move around Mobley, Allen, Strus, and Hunter next to Mobley, Mitchell, and Garland, depending on what you need. Hunter, if you need that perimeter 3-and-D guy who can create his own shot as well. Strus, if you need the shooting. Allen, if you need the size. But I don't know. I love what the Celtics have with that 5, If they're healthy, I think the Celtics come out of the East again. But the Cavs, they have a historic net rating, top 20 of all time. I think it's top 15, top 10 of all time, actually. They're so deep. They got Jerome, Hunter, Merrill off the bench. But I'm taking the Celtics. I think the shooting is the only thing that can hold them back because they're going to get Holiday and Porzingis back. They're going to be fine. Brown and Mazzulla aren't the best. That's for next year. But yeah, I think the Celtics come out of the East. I think if I had to pick somebody, I might pick the Timberwolves because although they've had a little weird skid over the past 3 or 4 games, they've been really hot. Randall, they've been very good with. So yeah, I think that about does it. Just to wrap up the NBA real quick. So yeah, thank you everybody for listening. We'll be back with the college show, probably on Zoom with Anthony today or tomorrow or the next day. We'll figure it out. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Peace.